Well, the question's a little vague, but it's also an important question. So there is a pathway that every participants and athletes will follow within their sports. Their entry point into the sport and their exit point from the sport will all be different. There's a lot of athlete development model out there in different countries. But at the end of the day, everybody is unique and everybody's journey is unique. So most people will usually start at a community sport level, either through starting to practically for fun at a younger age, or at some point they will transition from one sport to the next, such as, let's say, a gymnast that's retiring at 17, 20, and then decides to get into triathlon in their 20s. So there's a lot of cases like this. Now, one of the most difficult transition is usually from being an elite athlete to not being an elite athlete anymore. So many studies have shown that when high performance athletes, elite athletes retire from competitive sport, will struggle for sometimes up to 2 years afterwards because of the fact that sports was their whole life and that was their identity and their whole life was structured around that. And then from one day to the next, suddenly there's no more structure, there's no more purpose, there's no more reason to get up, there's no more reason to train. So they don't miss warm-ups, but they will miss, teammates, connections, the feeling of competition if they've enjoyed it. So a lot of programs now look at supporting elite athletes to transition before they retire. So a lot of elite level, international Olympic level athletes now in different countries have access to programs that will help them prepare for their next career or the next stage of their life, which might be to go back to school, get new skills for a new job, transition into coaching, to accompany them in order to make it more of a smooth transition. But there are many, many athletes that do struggle when they're transiting from elite sports to a retired life. Now, one of the goals of sport organization is also to keep people within the sports. And I will use one of my sports as an example, softball, where I've coached many elite players and they're still playing 5, 10, 15, 20 years later in a more community sport based level. They're still competitive, they're athletes, but they still compete at a quote unquote masters level or local league or tournament series as adults. And this is the ideal for a lot of sports. If you can keep quote unquote masters athletes, older athletes competing in sports, this is the absolute best thing because you keep people that have enjoyed the sports and they keep active, maybe not for the rest of their life, but for a big part of their life and involved within the sports. And they can become coaches, volunteers, administrators, and other roles within local clubs, local organizations. So there are different level of transition. The main and most important one are elite athletes because that's a big jump from spending your whole life in competitive sports to the next day not being part of it. But also at all levels, try to see and provide programs that can keep people within the sports. One of the strategy that works well is also when you have athletes that reach a certain stage, 14, 15, 16 years old, and they're competing. Get them involved in giving clinics. Get them involved with younger programs as assistant coaches, part-time assistant coaches. Get them involved in perhaps taking on other roles. Some of them may have to do internships. I've seen many athletes go to school and have to do an internship in, let's say, sports management or other, and they did it within their sport organization. Before you know it, they become employees or they stay involved. So have opportunities to recruit from within your athletes people that can stay involved because you need volunteers to keep the infrastructure running. A lot of sport organizations run on volunteers, and the best volunteers are people that are in love with the sport, they're passionate about it.